On October 2nd at 6:45 a.m., mass murderer Horace Pinker was put to death. Now he's really mad. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
That's the longest fucking tagline I've ever heard.
It's so awesome.
Just like 4 paragraphs describing Horace Pinker's state of mind.
I'm almost positive it was probably just like the quick pitch Wes Craven did to make the movie.
What would be really funny is if they changed the date and the time in the movie, but didn't tell like the marketing department.
I don't remember if they even like say, but I also like, could you imagine having to be at a prison early enough to get in and like settled and all that shit to see an execution at 6:45 a.m.?
Oh my god, no. Wake up at 4:30 so we can get out there and get good seats for the execution.
That's where this movie falls apart. This is episode 39 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
And this week we watched the 1989 Wes Craven movie Shocker, which still rules.
Absolutely it does.
Very good state-of-the-art effects.
And an incredible soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack rules so much. It was like one of the first cassette tapes I remember owning was the soundtrack to this movie.
I just imagine you listening to Megadeth's cover of No More Mr. Nice Guy on loop.
That's why I wanted it. Like, my parents were into all that stuff, so I remember them like buying it.
Megadeth?
Yeah, oh, yeah. My mom was at Migration, so she saw. Like, she's got stories of seeing, like, Metallica playing, like, dive bars before they, like, became a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, stuff like that. So, she's, like, way into all that shit. So I grew up with, like, Metallica, Megadeth, like, Slayer and Pantera and all that shit playing in my household.
Hell yeah.
But, yeah, that was, like, one of the first cassettes I could remember having. And I feel like that was probably the only song I ever listened to on it. Because I never liked Alice Cooper, and I like the rest of it. Now I'm like, oh, this like isn't bad, but back then I was like, blah, this is fucking like not real metal. When I was like 8,
False.
fucking this shit ain't true. This ain't Megadeth. So what is this? It's been like 2 weeks since we recorded one.
I think so.
Yeah, it's been a while. I don't remember how to do this now.
There's been so much that's happened in those 2 weeks.
It's been crazy. Like
multiple tornadoes.
Yeah, didn't you guys had one too, right? Like at least warnings.
So we had one. It was a warning while I was at work the day after the one hit y'all. And we're just like standing outside, like watching, like, oh, yep, that looks real bad. I hope this thing doesn't touch down over here. And it wound up passing all right. And then this past weekend, while I was in Austin at Austin Terror Fest, the last night there was a tornado warning in the area, and luckily it just turned out being severe thunderstorms. But it's just like, all right, I'm over these. Make these stop.
Yeah, like we have them like every like spring going into summer and stuff. Like there's just like every other day there's like a warning or a watch or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was like the night that like the one hit me, I was like talking on the phone to Caitlin, and like I got a text that was just like, oh, there's a tornado that's going like right by, like heading right for you in like 5 minutes. And I was like, oh, fuck it, whatever. Like, it's constant. I've lived here, since I was 11, and...
Not a big deal.
Yeah, like, we have these... Just shit happens all the time. And for some reason, I was just like, well... I was like, I got Paul, so I was like, I should probably, like, at least pretend to take cover. As a step on his foot. And so like we went in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden like my power went out, and then all of a sudden I heard this like real low, like loud, deep rumble, and I was like, "Fuck." So yeah, I had a tornado go through my backyard and pull out all of the power lines from my house, and somebody's
Jesus.
shed ended up in my yard. There's like a tree in my backyard with somebody's like front or back door in it still.
Holy shit.
It's crazy. So, but then when I got back from Pittsburgh and I had power backs, like apparently they drove like the power company drove their trucks up the hill in my backyard to get to the power line. So now my backyard is just torn to shit. So I don't really know how I'm supposed to mow it. It's just like never ending.
Gotta love that.
Yeah. It's been a fun couple weeks. How was Austin Terror Fest?
Oh, it was rad.
Did you catch?
I drank so much Lone Star.
I saw your fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin picture.
If I ever wind up with 2 beers, like it's just what has to happen.
Yeah.
Like I can't control myself at that point.
Did you watch Thou? They did a Misfits cover set there, right?
They didn't.
Oh, I thought they were supposed to be doing that.
So there was something kind of screwy had happened a couple weeks before, and there was supposed to be a secret show, like at a Beerland, and they weren't saying who the headliner was going to be, but kind of just guessing that it would have been Thou doing, like, you know,
Yeah.
Misfits cover set, because it was the same day they were playing, just later in the evening. But they had to shut it down because I guess Beerland, the venue, hasn't been paying their employees since like March. So the venue got shut down, all the employees walked out.
Yeah, good for that.
So yeah. So I was like, Misfits cover set would be cool, but I'd rather, you know, all the employees get paid.
I feel like Thou, since they already did that, they should have picked another band. Like, do something real left field and like Descendants cover set or something that like. Or
the Outfield.
Oh yes, I would fucking lose my mind to just hear them do Your Love.
That'd be incredible.
Thou, I know you're listening. You guys
do it, Brian.
All right, let's fucking get into this movie. So this movie was written and directed by Wes Craven, who I hope everybody listening knows from whatever the movie was he did with Meryl Streep. Like the that and Cursed.
I was gonna say Deadly Friend.
I think that's like one of the only ones from him I haven't seen.
Oh, it's bad. I highly recommend it.
I feel like there's a point that I checked out with Wes Craven.
That's fair.
Yeah, like there's like a handful of movies, like he's like all of his stuff at the beginning is really good, and then I like most of his 90s stuff. But like I don't know, once you get past like Scream, it becomes rough.
What was My Soul to Take?
Yeah. I think I saw that in a theater.
Deep sighing.
Yeah. He did. Was that Wes Craven who did the like Red Eye? Is that what it's called?
I forgot about that film.
I remember seeing that, and I remember not hating it, but not really liking it either.
I forgot he did Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh, Vampire in Brooklyn is so good. Yeah, so I mean, like Wes Craven, you better know. So this movie stars Mitch Pileggi, I believe I don't know how his last name is pronounced, as Horace Pinker, who I'm guessing most people probably know from the X-Files.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he plays Skinner.
Yeah. And
then
why had I never put that together?
I didn't either until like I looked at like his filmography today. And then I forgot he was in Return of the Living Dead 2 as well. He does like I feel like he's one of those people that like you see his face and you're like, oh yeah, that guy, but like never really remember what shit he's in.
Yeah.
And he's in like a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of TV work. It also stars Peter Berg as Jonathan, who was in Corky Romano, the only movie that matters. Camille Cooper as Allison. Heather Langenkamp is in this as like a victim. I'm not sure which one. I don't remember seeing her.
I was I just saw her in the credits, and I was like, I don't remember seeing her in the movie.
Yeah.
But also, I'm very dumb, so...
Yeah, same. John Tesh as the newscaster, who did all of the music for the cartoon Bobby's World.
Holy shit.
Yep. Ted Raimi is in this as Pac-Man, who Ted Raimi is in like everything his brother Sam makes and anything Bruce Campbell is in. Is also a awesome, like a very good like comedic foil for like serious actors in movies.
Yes.
He's fucking great in like the I guess 2 episodes of Ash vs. Evil Dead he's in. And then Ernie Lively, who played the warden, I just wrote down because he was in the hot tub episode of Seinfeld.
Yes. All right. We're coming back with a Seinfeld connection.
Yes.
Can't be stopped.
Gotta have at least one, hopefully. Usually any of the bigger movies like this, there's at least one. It's when we get into shit like fucking Tsunami that is impossible.
I forgot that was a film.
I don't know if film is the correct word, but it's a thing.
It's a thing that happened.
So apparently this movie, it took 13 submissions to the MPAA to get it from an X down to an R rating.
What the fuck?
Which is wild because there's really only like 2 kind of like gory scenes.
I would say, I guess that first kind of murder scene where the room is just absolutely covered in blood.
Yeah, and I guess the scene where like the coach is inhabited by Pinker and he's like stabbing himself in the hand went on a lot longer.
Oh, damn.
So I guess that was like a big thing they had to deal with was that scene. Because really, like, Allison's death scene is like, you don't see much. You just see like the aftermath and it's just like blood, which, I mean, I don't know. The MPAA is like real shitty with horror movies, but
yeah,
I've seen
there's no consistency there.
Much worse in bigger like action movies and shit than just a room covered in blood. And apparently, like, this was originally, like, Wes Craven wanted it to be a TV series, which could have been interesting. Especially if there was just a lot of scenes of them chasing each other through the TV channels, which is the best part of this movie. So this movie opens with my first note is sick theme song.
Yes, correct.
There's like a montage.
The best note you can take away.
Yes, all of the songs in this are extremely like cheesy 80s like hair metal shit, and it kind of rules.
I'm not gonna lie. Ever since I had mentioned it, I have had No More Mr. Nice Guy stuck in my head, and it's kind of pissed me off, honestly.
Well, I think like there's a thing on the Blu-ray that I got like a little bit into where they talk to like the people, like I think as the band Dangerous Toys kind of somewhat composed the music for this. Like I think a lot of the songs are theirs if I'm correct. But like I think that's who the theme song is from. But
it says there's Shocker by the Dudes of Wrath.
Yeah, I feel like I ain't fucking worried about looking it up. I don't mind being wrong.
Yeah,
but
I don't know what's what.
I think like the guy they interview that was kind of like spearheading the whole thing was in the band Dangerous Toys then. It was something like that.
Yeah.
I remember him mentioning that band name. And I remember
I just wanted to bring up the Dudes of Wrath.
That is.
Because that's a fantastic name.
That would be an excellent podcast name. Um,
Is it too late for a rebrand?
I mean, we just start over.
No one has to know.
All we do is just each episode is just a different song from this movie. So this movie opens with this fucking sick theme song and a montage of just kind of like news footage and news reports and kind of just aimless footage of Horace Pinker like working, like soldering shit. And you get after the credits, you cut to Jonathan playing football, being horny as fuck and showboating, fucking running into a goalpost. There's some like pretty decent slapstick comedy parts in this movie, which
I feel like Wes Craven's slapstick comedic timing is extremely underrated.
I agree.
He's very good at it.
Like, I feel like it took him a couple movies to kind of like get comfortable with the idea that you could have kind of comedy in like horror movies. And then once he kind of like figured out a way to do it, he was pretty good at it. Like Scream is like a pretty good example of it. Like just like Jamie Kennedy's character alone.
Yeah.
Is a pretty good like comedic foil for that movie. But yeah, Jonathan runs during like doing like football practice, fucking gets distracted and like runs straight into a goalpost, and then fucking most likely has a concussion, gets up, immediately fucking trips and falls over the water station. Which is a pretty good
Killing
like,
it.
1-2. And then Allison is introduced. Allison is Jonathan's girlfriend, who does not get a lot of screen time in this movie. I wrote down that Jonathan is easily 45. This dude has like that Mario Lopez thing where he just looks like he should not be in high school.
He's clearly too old, and also he's a terrible actor.
Yeah, he's very like one note, but also like overacting at points.
Yes.
Like he does the same kind of thing throughout the whole movie, but also like does that one thing to like an exaggerated amount. It's not great. But the dude that plays Horace Pinker is awesome.
Perfect.
He is exactly over the top enough to make that character like fun, while also kind of, I mean, I feel like if like when I saw this when I was a kid, I was probably terrified of it.
He's definitely exactly what you'd want from a murderer who was electrocuted and then became electricity and like can jump from person to person and through TV stations.
Yes. Which is like what's interesting about this is how almost exactly like Nightmare on Elm Street it is.
Yes.
Like even to the point that like all of the scenes that I guess are supposed to be kind of like dream sequences or whatever, like look and feel like they came out of Nightmare on Elm Street with like the blue foggy background.
Yeah.
And like Pinker being able to jump from, instead of dreams, just jumping into bodies or like through TV channels. Not a bad thing, because Nightmare on Elm Street is a almost perfect movie, but
yeah,
like it's kind of watching it now. Like I probably hadn't watched this movie in like a decade, and like watching it today, I was like, oh, this feels like very Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes,
but for all I know, that could have been the point. I know this was at like a period where Wes Craven was like kind of not happy with how horror movies were, or like I think this was after he like helped deal with like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 or something.
Oh yeah.
So that could very well be what he was going for. After Jonathan is like walked off the field and gets done tripping over everything, him and Allison are walking home, and as they notice something, or Jonathan notices something, and as they start walking towards it, you see a bunch of kids like fleeing in the background, and he tells Allison this is like the street he grew up on, and he sees a Pinker's TV like repair van in front of the house.
Subtle.
Yes.
If you're gonna be a mass murderer, like, might as well advertise your name on a vehicle.
Put your name out there. Jonathan goes in the house and finds Pinker like killing his family, or I guess they're his adopted family. And it ends up being like a dream sequence. Allison thinks it's from like Jonathan having like head trauma from running into the goalpost. As they're talking about it, Jonathan's like saying like he's like, I don't know, like it felt real, like pretty real, and they get a phone call from Don, who is his stepdad or like adopted dad or whatever, and about his family being murdered. Don is the detective that's working the Pinker case. I'm not sure how he doesn't get pulled from this case after his family isn't like implicated in it. It's just bad police work.
Like they don't give a shit.
Yeah, like
yeah, whatever.
Like he's fine. Now he's got real motive to go find him.
It's America. They expect him to work through it.
Yeah. I mean, I know your family was just dead, but can you hurry this up?
Yeah, can you go ahead and come in tomorrow?
We got some paperwork
we need
to do.
To solve the case.
So, Jonathan's adopted family has all been murdered except for Don, who was not home. He was, I'm guessing, working this case. You get a quick thing of like the funeral and like more news reports from John Tesh, and a scene of Jonathan and Don at a diner, and Jonathan telling Don about like the dream he had, and like starts giving Don like details of the case that he should not know. Like Don gets all bent out of shape about this for some reason, and like just storms out of the diner. They like something happens. I think there may have been maybe another dream here where they go like before they go to Pinker's like warehouse store area, because I know Jonathan says something to him about when they go to arrest him he wants to be there, which they let him, which is also terrible police work. Don is not a very good detective.
No. He sucks shit.
So they like show up at I guess it's a storefront of some sort, but it's built into a fucking warehouse. It's real strange, but kind of is like a cool like backdrop. It makes sense in that way that like in the real world none of this would make sense, but in a movie you're like, oh, that looks cool, so I'll go with it. The cops like break into Pinker's shop. All of the TVs are on, playing some kind of fucking footage from, I'm guessing, Vietnam. It's just like bombs dropping and shit. I think it's supposed to be like Vietnam footage. As they're kind of like going around the building, Pinker pulls a cop through like a fake door and just murders the fuck out of him. And like Jonathan kind of like stumbles across like a still lit cigarette on the ground and is trying to like figure out where this cop went when like a bunch of blood starts pouring from under this fake door, which is never a good sign. They're trying to like break in through this door. Don calls for like backup and for the cops outside to like keep their eyes open for Pinker. Pinker comes out in the cop's uniform and just kills both cops waiting outside. Just going crazy on these cops.
They just thought he was the new guy, new to the force.
Yeah, that's the thing is the one cop like looks at him for a solid like 45 seconds, like talking to him before they get stabbed. So like they obviously have no idea who came to this. So yeah, Pinker escapes. Don is angry at Jonathan for some reason. Tells him to like stay out of all this business. You get more news reports about Pinker like just going on like a murder spree at this point. Since he's like found out, he's just like, I'm gonna kill as many people as I can before I'm caught.
YOLO.
Yep. You cut to this scene of like Jonathan and Allison discussing Pinker, and Jonathan gives Allison a birthday present, which she's legitimately surprised he remembered, which is not a good sign for your relationship.
Awful. Absolutely awful.
And it's like a necklace with like a gold heart kind of pendant on it, which at first I was like, oh, like whatever, and then I was like, oh my god, this plays into this movie a lot. One of the news reports is about the police found like evidence that Pinker was practicing black magic in his shop, and like Jonathan, after giving Allison her birthday present, goes to football practice. She is immediately murdered by Pinker. And like
violently.
Yeah, it's like you don't necessarily see anything as it happens, but like you see the aftermath, and there's no way that wasn't like insanely violent.
Just like, did he drain all of the blood from her body and like splash around on the walls? Like,
one of my notes was that how is she drowning in a literal bathtub full of blood, because that amount of blood could not come from her body. Not to mention the painting the walls with it. It's an insane amount of blood.
A lot.
Yeah. But so she gets murdered by Pinker, and like at football practice, the coach comes up to Jonathan and he's just like, you should go home. And he's like, why? And he's like, just go home, which is a very, very strange way to be like, your girlfriend was murdered.
Yeah.
Like, you think
I don't want to tell you that your girlfriend was violently murdered, so just go see it for yourself.
Your girlfriend left you a surprise at home. Go home.
That would have been fucked up.
Got another thing of like Allison's funeral, and forget what. So yeah, this is like when Jonathan and his teammate Rhino, which is a fucking perfect name for that dude. Like go
Johnny and Rhino.
Oh, like fucking.
I'd watch that show.
I would absolutely. That's like the TV show could have just been like Allison being murdered, and then just Jonathan and Rhino on the case for like 10 episodes. But they come up with a plan to go after Pinker that involves Jonathan sleeping in his car while Rhino sits in the passenger seat so that Jonathan can like trace Pinker in his dream, and then like Rhino can wake him up before anything happens. It's just extremely Nightmare on Elm Street. So like basically this all works out. Like Jonathan finds out where Pinker is going to attack, and him and Rhino like go to confront him, and the police follow and try to stop Jonathan from entering the building. The Rhino just like fucks up a cop, and Jonathan goes running in. Rhino fucking tackles a couple cops in this movie. I don't know how he does not get arrested. The police and Jonathan all like confront Pinker before he can murder this lady. he like Pinker fucking throws her down the stairs and goes like running, and John just like leaps up the stairs and goes chasing after him in this insane chase that includes Pinker running across buildings on a ladder and then pulling the ladder away, so Jonathan has to literally jump across buildings, and then Jonathan drop kicking Pinker into a door, which all like this whole fight scene reminded me as like it just seemed like a shorter version of the fight scene in They Live, where they're just doing flat out like wrestling moves to each other. There's like
someone gets hit with a Batista bomb.
Oh fuck, that'd have been amazing. I still just want a movie where like somebody gets a tombstone pile driver right in the middle of a fight.
Okay, hear me out. Shocker remake with Dave Bautista as Pinker.
I was gonna say Santa Slay remake where Goldberg gets tombstoned and breaks his neck, just like a fucking their last pay-per-view thing. Imagine
That'd be
a fucking Santa Slay remake.
That's how the movie ends.
Yeah. Oh, I just want a Santa Slay remake where like his fucking protagonist is the Undertaker.
His only weakness is his neck.
I would also watch the shit out of a Shocker remake with Batista in it.
I want both. I demand both right now.
Yes. I'm gonna just start tweeting about that until it happens. Just tweet at Dave Bautista.
Speak it into existence.
Like, hey, after Guardians 3, can you work on this movie Kit and I are making?
Yeah, please.
We don't have the rights to it, but it'll be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to anyone in Hollywood.
Yeah. So, Pinker and Jonathan are like fighting on this rooftop, and Pinker tries to shove Jonathan's face into one like that fucking weird spinning vent thing, which just seems terrible. One time in high school, I remember seeing a fight where these two like girls were fighting, and the other girl like slammed the like one girl's face into the locker and then just like rubbed it up and down on like the grating. And it was like one of the most like fucked up things I think I've ever seen. I can't even imagine what that felt like.
My face hurts hearing about it.
Yeah, it was fucked up. But the police show up in time to get Pinker. Pinker yells a bunch of shit at Jonathan. Like, that's pretty much his entire role in this movie is just yelling obscenities at Jonathan. You immediately cut to, or like you have like a bit of shit with like Jonathan and Don, where Jonathan's just like, I want to be at the execution if he gets the electric chair. You immediately cut to this pretty awesome like long one shot going through like the electric chair room, like the execution room, and like people setting it up. They'll last like a good like maybe a minute and a half. And there's a couple of those in here that I noticed. Like, I'm like a sucker for those, like any kind of a long one shot where you know like everyone had to be like on point with what they were doing to make it work. Kind of like in Halloween, the last 2018 Halloween or whatever, that one down the driveway and shit, like into the house.
Yeah,
I love that shit. And there's a couple of those in this movie, but this one is like especially good because it involves like the people getting the room ready for the execution, and then like all of the people like entering the chamber to watch and kind of having their dialogue and shit. It's all really good. You cut to guards going to get Pinker, who is doing some fucking black magic shit in a cell with electricity in the TV, which looks completely ridiculous, and I love it. It's also like another thing that reminded me of, I guess, would that be Nightmare on Elm Street 3? Is 3 Dream Warriors?
Yeah.
Where like the girl gets like pulled into the TV. Like is that?
Yep.
That's Welcome to Primetime, bitch, right?
Yes.
I haven't watched those movies in a while. Past like, usually if I watch any of them now, it's like 1 and New Nightmare.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Three is my personal fave.
I like all of them. I don't think any of them are necessarily bad. They just are kind of goofy. But usually if I want to watch one, it's just one of those ones.
Agreed.
The 3D one is
Freddy's dead.
especially terrible and awesome.
I tend to default to Dream Child. I feel like Dream Child's underrated.
Is that 4 or 5?
5.
What's 4? What's the subtitle for 4?
Dream Master.
Oh, that's right. I was like,
Yeah. 3, 4, and 5 are basically like the same movie but worse every time, and I love that.
They're all pretty fucking great. Like I have that big like DVD box set that's got like the fucking 5-hour fucking documentary on the movies on it and shit. So I catch Pinker doing some like black magic shit in a cell. When they pull him out of the cell, it looks like he's not breathing, and one of the guards is just like, "We gotta give him CPR." And when he does, Pinker bites his lip off. Just also seems
it's
not
so
good.
Gross.
Yes.
That was a really gnarly practical effect.
He also, when like the other guard is trying to pull Pinker off this dude's lip, Pinker bites this dude's fingers off and then says, "Finger looking good."
That dude's always on brand, and I appreciate that about
I cannot imagine the kind of like jaw strength you need to bite through bone, so it is impressive.
Ugh. Seems like it would hurt your teeth, honestly.
Yeah, is it possible to do that as like a human being?
Maybe I've got weak teeth.
Oh man, mine would just
Never thought about it.
break in half. Like,
yeah, my teeth would be stuck in that dude's fingers.
Yeah. Just shards of your teeth. The guards get like a bunch of more guards show up and just kick the shit out of Pinker and then take him to like the execution chamber. When Pinker is asked if he's got any last words, he just starts fucking delivering this monologue, basically saying that he's Jonathan's dad, which is another plot point I do not remember from this movie. But his like monologue in this, he does pretty good. Like, it's extremely goofy and like over the top, like the rest of like this dude's portrayal of like Pinker is, but it's pretty awesome. Pinker is executed, like electrocuted, and is still alive afterwards. So they send a doctor in to check on him. Just a bunch of shit happens with like the electricity in the room and just starts shooting out of everywhere. The power goes out, and like once it comes back on, Pinker's body is gone. Like everybody goes like kind of running out of the room to look for Pinker. Don and Jonathan come walking into the execution room, which I feel like I don't think spectators are allowed in there, but it's just more terrible police work by Don. Don is trying to...
Don sucks.
Yes, he is very terrible at his job. He is trying to like convince Jonathan that like all the shit Pinker said to him about being his dad isn't real. As they're like looking around, Jonathan like moves a door and Pinker's corpse falls from behind it and just immediately catches on fire and burns up. As I guess happens.
Was it at this point that I can't remember who said it, but he's like, "That's a fucking good chair," or something along those lines.
Maybe?
Because like Pinker's body just like falls and just like explodes and is gone, and all that's left is his outfit.
Oh yeah, I think Don might have said that at this point.
It's so stupid.
The doctor is like been rushed out by these two cops. As they get outside, she's like, "I'm fine, just let me get like in the back of the car, like whatever." They're trying to rush her to the hospital. At this point, you're supposed to be like, "Oh, like something is not right."
Whoever would have guessed.
Yeah. As they drive away, it's kind of revealed that Pinker is inside her body, and kills the one cop by like twisting his head around and saying "felt like a little head sport" to the other cop as she does it. They like, as he in this doctor's body is like killing this one cop, the other cop just like plows the car into like a tanker, which immediately explodes. Somehow is the one cop that was driving is like ejected from the car and is still alive. Jonathan at this point is like thinks something is up because he didn't feel anything when he saw Pinker's body like hit the ground after it fell from behind the door, and like he's like, Pinker was not in that body anymore. Everybody thinks he's crazy because he is. He like realizes that like Pinker is probably in the body of this cop, who I forget. I think the cop's name is something Pastore. You cut to Jonathan in bed and sees Allison in a dream, and she warns him about Pinker. There's a very terrible like water effect on the waterbed that he falls in. Maybe the worst effect in this entire movie. Which I don't want to say like the Pinker effect when he's in the TV is bad. It's bad now. Then it probably looked like amazing, but it just looks goofy as shit. Like,
yeah,
30 years later.
Fuck.
That's
30 years.
Just made me real sad. So Jonathan is like packing up his house, I guess, to move. There's the typical shit of like just white sheets over all the furniture, and he's like painting and everything's packed up. Officer Pastore shows up as Jonathan gets a call from Don warning him that like Pastore has left the hospital. I don't know why he felt that was a need to warn him if he just assumes it's a cop. that part seemed real strange to me, but
should absolutely warn people when cops have left the hospital.
So Pastore is like banging on the door. Jonathan realizes that it's like, or kind of has like doubts that it's Pastore, but like opens the door anyway. Or no, he yells something out the door, and then Pastore like points his gun at the door and like shoots at it, like right as Jonathan ducks. So Jonathan goes like running. There's like this ridiculous chase scene because Pinker has a limp, which is the only way you could tell what body he's in. Because Jonathan, when he was a kid, shot him in the knee when he was like beating up his mom or some shit. This chase scene is ridiculous because it's just like Pinker in this cop's body, just again screaming obscenities at Jonathan and shooting at him wildly in public.
It's not a big deal.
Pretty awesome. There's like a park and like everyone's just like, what's going on? Oh, this guy's just getting shot at by a cop.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Jonathan is shot in the arm, which pretty much does not affect him for the rest of the movie.
No, he plays that off like it's nothing.
He gets bandaged up by Pac-Man later, and it's just like, I'm good. And then like can just continue to just fucking punch and lift shit with that arm.
I get shot in the arm like, all right, I'm going to lay down in the park for a while, and, you know, if that dude wants to murder me, that's fine, I guess.
I would immediately just be like, I'm just going to lay here bleed out.
Yeah, just howling in pain.
We would be absolutely terrible in a horror movie. Yes.
Dead so fast.
The first time I, like, tripped up the stairs, I'm like, I'm done, just murder me.
Yeah, I'm not going to be scrambling to try and get back up. I'm going to look like an idiot.
Like fucking sprained my wrist. I'm good. I'm just
yeah.
It.
I'm too old. Everything hurts.
This chase scene like ends up like Jonathan's been shot in the arm, and they kind of like Pastori kind of like falls to the ground, and I think this is the first time you get the idea that like Pinkerton has to like keep jumping bodies or like get electricity somehow. But he's like kind of on the ground, looks like he's like weakening up, and like Pinker pretends through Pastori's body that like he's just Pastori again, so that as Jonathan kind of like gets lulled in by this, he goes to shoot at him again, and a jogger like walks up and is like, "Oh, is everything okay?" In which he immediately gets shot by Pinker for trying to intervene in this situation. And Pinker just transfers himself into this jogger's body. And this just starts a bunch of scenes of just Pinker jumping into every body in this park, including a little girl that jumps onto like a fucking what's kind of, not a steamroller,
God damn it, what are those called?
I can't think of the name of it now.
Like tractor, like
a big tractor with like the giant shovel on the front of it.
Yeah.
Which this little girl gets on, cursing up a storm, and starts driving it at Jonathan, which is pretty great. And then you get a scene of Jonathan.
The best part of the film.
Jonathan, who is like 50 years old, beating up this little girl.
Bobcat. That's what it is.
Yeah, but I feel like it has like because I think Bobcat is just a brand. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Somebody.
Whatever. It's a big metal thing, and a child's driving it while swearing.
Yes.
And he has to dive out of the way, and it rules.
It's just awesome because he's got, it's like whenever he catches this little girl, he's like holding her up and like shaking her like in front of her mom. And, like, yeah, so after this, it's just like Pinker's just jumping from body to body, and like Jonathan can kind of see this happening, and I think ends up in like a construction worker's body. The next scene is like Jonathan getting his arm bandaged up by Pac-Man and explaining all of this shit with Pinker to like his coach and Rhino, who for some reason just believe him.
Because they're good friends.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Pac-Man I could get. I don't like the coach buying into all this, just I do not understand.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
He is. The coach is also like the same age as Jonathan. They are both blatantly adults. They come up with a plan that I was making pizza at this point, so I went to get my pizza, and like what is the idea with the pond in this?
I genuinely do not recall.
I came back and their plan was like the coach and Pac-Man are like waiting at Jonathan's house, and Jonathan and Rhino have to go find something in this pond, but I don't know what they were looking for. I still don't, because I don't know. I never looked it up because I pretty much finished the movie and then we started recording, but yeah, something like happens there where they're like discussing things, and just I don't know. I don't
remember the pond at all.
Well, it's like the thing, like they go at like some point, it's him and Rhino, and then like he goes back later in like the dream when he like is the thing he's swimming in when he gets like Allison.
Yeah,
but like I can't remember. Like there's something happens where he has to go find something in it because he has to go back to the house to get like the goggles to see in the water, which is when like Pinker attacks him at the house. I don't know. Something happens there that I did not catch because pizza was more important to me.
That's 100% fair.
Yes. Rhino and Jonathan they're at the fucking pond and have this like back and forth about like Jonathan's like, you can't come with me, like he's already killed other people I love, like he's not gonna kill you. And then like he just fucking just tells Rhino to like leave him alone and like runs back to his house. Pinker at this point had like heard all of this shit as he was like hiding under the bleachers as they were like he was explaining all of this shit to the coach and Pac-Man and Rhino. So when he gets back to the house, he gets back to his house and the front door is open and water is running. And when he gets into his house, he kind of walks back towards the bathroom where the water is running. In blood on the mirror is written, "Stop him, Jonathan, please." Pinker at this point is in the coach's body and is like in the shower, like covered in blood. There is a fight between like Jonathan and the coach, and he's like pleading with the coach like to fight him off, like, you know, like whatever, like I know you can fight him out of this or whatever. There's Jonathan like goes to run into the closet to get these goggles after Pinker tells him like, "Oh hey, I left you a mess in your closet," which sounds like he's shit in his closet. But
which would have been pretty good also.
Pretty awesome. But instead it is the goggles in a big puddle of blood. They're like the lens on them are broken. And Pac-Man,
it'd been a puddle of shit.
Oh, it'd been so good.
Next level.
This movie would have gone straight from like a 7 to a 10 if there's just a big pile of shit in there. When he finds the goggles are broken, Pac-Man's body falls from the top of the closet. Pac-Man has been murdered by Pinker in the coach's body. As Pinker in the coach goes to attack Jonathan, Allison shows up in this weird ghost form and stops him. Something about Allison, like some reason like Pinker can't deal with her. I never really understood any of that. Like there's this back and forth between Allison and Pinker in the coach's body and like Jonathan about the coach trying to fight Pinker off like he can do it, and Pinker is like forcing the coach to stab himself in the hand, and then I don't know if it's Pinker that stabs himself in the chest or if the coach does it to like stop himself from attacking Jonathan.
I took it as the coach doing it. Yeah, like he regained enough control to stop himself.
That's kind of how I felt too. The like after Pinker leaves the coach's body after he like dies, he is kind of like weak and like realizes that he needs like electricity of some sort to like keep going, and like shoves his fingers into an electrical outlet, which is the first time you get like the fucking ridiculous like effect of him being electricity, and it rules. It's also like the transfer, like the way it transferred onto the Blu-ray, like it's almost impossible to tell what is going on with like Pinker's body when he's in that weird like effect. Like it just, I imagine again that it probably looked okay back then. It just looks absolutely terrible now.
Very weird,
but I love it. Allison fights off Pinker once again with like some weird fucking light beam from her chest. And like she like after she fights off Pinker and he kind of like gets the electricity and leaves, like she kneels down and like tells Jonathan like she has to tell him something he needs to listen carefully. You never hear what that is. Don shows up and she kind of like disappears. Don comes in and like they have this back and forth, like Jonathan and Don, before Don finds the coach and Pac-Man's bodies. Don has Jonathan arrested. Yeah, okay, so yeah, this is when Pinker is in Don's body, which is one of my favorite parts. Like, so as Don has got Jonathan arrested, like Jonathan's put in the backseat of the police car, and he sees Don come walking out of the house limping and realizes what's going on. As like Pinker in Don's body is like, I'm gonna take care of this one, and goes walking towards the car, Rhino just comes up and tackles the shit out of him. Fucking rules. Jonathan gets like broken out of the car by Rhino, and he goes like running on foot. Pinker and Don's body gives chase in the car to where they end up at like a TV studio, and like this chase just leads onto the roof of this TV studio and up like a satellite dish tower. As they get up there and they're kind of fighting a bit, I think Don has like a heart attack or something, and which like makes him almost fall off this tower, and he lands on the satellite dish, which sends Pinker into the TV waves. Because that's the thing that happens.
Do you think Cable Guy copped the whole ending sequence from this film?
Yes. So one of the bonus features on the Blu-ray is like an interview with the guy that plays Pinker, and it's just called like something Cable Guy.
Yeah.
So I just can only imagine that's all. Like somebody saw that and just wrote Cable Guy around it. So Pinker is now like just some sort of electrical like TV wave thing shot into the distance. Don is saved by Jonathan. There's a news story the next day about how when Jonathan was taken to jail. While he was in jail, a family was killed were killed in their house. There was no form of entry, and that Horace Pinker's name was like written in blood in the house or something like that. So they let Jonathan go because they're like, well, he can't be this copycat killer. He was in jail at the time, which also feels like not good police work. Jonathan collects the entire football team at this point together, and they come up with this fucking absolutely insane plan of trying to trap Pinker outside of the TV by inviting like some news station's anchor to the house his family was killed in, and they're going to get Pinker outside of the TV and then like cutting all of the power to the city so that he can't like jump back into it. It's wild.
This is also an extremely Nightmare on Elm Street thing.
Yes.
Have to bring him from his world into ours, and then he can't go back.
Like, I don't know, somehow fucking blocking off dreams after Freddy is like pulled out. There's this scene of Jonathan at the pond again, but in like the dream world, where he keeps getting scared by Allison while he's in the water, and then they make out a little bit. It's real weird. Jonathan goes back home and so while he's asleep in bed as this dream thing is happening, as he's sleeping, you see the TV start like moving away from the wall, and Pinker comes out of it. As this is happening back in the dream world, all of the people that Pinker has murdered show up and start warning Jonathan not to sleep, which is more Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. Jonathan wakes up and like for some reason gets out of bed and immediately goes and sits in his like lazy boy recliner, which attacks him.
That's what I'd do.
I mean, yes. I'm guessing this is like a massage one because it's plugged into the wall for some reason. But
Yeah, that's how I got into it.
it the fucking effect of like the eyeballs.
It's,
It's so good.
I take back what I said earlier about the little girl
This is
being the best part, trying to run him down. This was it.
this is like an extremely like Terror Vision style effect of like this fucking recliner. Like the arms pop up and like hold Jonathan in place, and then there's like the two kind of button things that like hold the fabric in place just turn into eyes. It's fucking crazy. It's pretty awesome though.
And then it hugs him.
Yes, it just gives him a big old bear hug. Just dad and son bonding again.
It's my one weakness.
Yes.
Love.
This recliner slowly turns into Pinker, who then is just
So weird.
It is extremely strange, but I love it. There's like a fight scene where Pinker is just like fucking up Jonathan and like shooting from like different like shooting from like lamps to like different sockets and other kind of electrical equipment in his house. As Pinker like gets to him again and is like holding him up on the wall, like he's like choking him and electrocuting him at the same time, and he holds up Allison's necklace, which forces Pinker back into the TV. Again, I don't understand any of this kind of plot with Allison and this necklace stopping Pinker. I don't know if it was explained and I missed it, but
If it was, I'd given up on it a while ago.
yeah, I had to go with it. So Jonathan jumps back in, or Pinker's jumped back into the TV, and Jonathan, with Allison's necklace, just takes the chance that he can also jump into TVs, which he can. And then this is probably my favorite part because it's just completely insane of this chase scene and fight scene throughout all of the TV channels. And like some of them actually look pretty good, and then some of them look really like terribly added into the backgrounds. There's like a scene where they run through like an Alice Cooper music video, like documentaries about World War II, Leave It to Beaver, just stuff like that, and they're just kind of fighting throughout like all these TV channels.
I like the news anchor reporting on it.
John Tesh reporting on it, and then they just like
Yes. As he's reporting on it, they start brawling behind him.
I was shocked that like they didn't take the opportunity to have Pinker like murder John Tesh. So they're like fighting through the TV channels. They end up jumping out of the TVs into someone's living room and are like fighting. Pinker decides to stop fighting Jonathan and just starts beating up everybody in this fucking living room. As this is happening, Jonathan grabs like the remote and like jumps back into the TV. They end up jumping back out of the TVs into the room where like Jonathan's adopted mom and sister or whatever were murdered in. They the news anchors like catch this. They kind of fight a little bit more, and as like Pinker is getting ready to stab Jonathan, he freeze frames Pinker with the remote, which like just pauses him in place, but he can still like talk, he just can't move. This is happening. As this is happening, Jonathan starts like using the remote to just like beat the shit out of Pinker, and is explaining like the plan that they're going to blow all the electricity and it's going to trap him in that room forever or some shit. Throughout this, he keeps like Jonathan mentions more than once about like in 3 minutes you're going to be trapped in here forever, like blah blah blah. And Pinker's like, you said that 3 minutes ago. Your watch obviously doesn't work anymore. And so, like, right as this happens, Rhino and the rest of the football team, like, blow all the power to the town, trapping Pinker and John in the room together. There's a pretty fucking awesome scene of Pinker right before the power's going to go out, goes running at the TV to try to jump back into it before the power goes out, and Jonathan pulls the plug out of it, and he just goes head first into the TV. Jonathan, like, after fighting off Pinker some more, puts Allison's necklace on the TV camera, and right before the power goes out, jumps into the camera. It falls over and breaks, so Pinker can't get into it, and then Pinker just fucking explodes somehow. Just more shit I still don't understand. Jonathan falls, like, out of his TV. He can still hear, like, Pinker's voice, like, yelling at him, so he just turns the TV off, and then Pinker, I guess, is dead. He goes walking outside, looks up at the stars, has, like, a back and forth with Allison in his mind real quick, then credits. This is the end of this insane movie. Yeah, this movie rules. It is just completely bonkers.
It's almost 2 hours long and absolutely does not need to be almost 2 hours long.
Yeah,
that's really my only complaint.
I think they could have captured Pinker quicker.
Yes.
Like, I don't think you needed, like, all of that, because, like, it's almost like in 50 minutes before he actually gets, like, executed, I think.
Yes. I'll say I forgot just how long it takes for him to actually become, a devious electrical entity.
I feel like Wes Craven is kind of good for that, though. Like, just a lot of kind of preamble before the actual movie kind of kicks off.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch this movie. It's great. The Blu-ray release from, I think, Scream Factory
is
pretty good.
They're always killing it. Scream Factory.
Yeah. Have you seen, like, any news? Like, the only thing I've even seen remotely lately was, like, the fucking new Rob Zombie trailer, which I did not watch.
So that's the only, like, big thing, and I was like, fuck that.
I saw a bunch of people, like, tweeting about it, and they were just like, it just shows, like, a bunch of footage from the previous movies with just barely footage from the new one, so I was like, yeah, I don't need to watch this.
Oh, they are making a Blair Witch video game.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm into that. I like being horrified when I play video games.
I'm very intrigued as to how that will come out.
Yeah, same. There's definitely a lot of potential.
Yeah. Like, that's a thing that's just real, like, 50-50. Like, it's either just going to be just garbage or it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
I feel like there was something else I was going to bring up. I just forgot to write it down. It doesn't matter. Did you have something you wanted to shout out?
I'm gonna say Thou.
Good one. That's
Thou. That was dope as shit, and it's still very fresh in my mind.
Yeah. Did they play, like, a regular set this week, or are they still doing?
Yep.
Like, okay, I didn't know if they were still doing, like, the kind of, like, more mellow, like, acoustic stuff.
They worked in a like a heavier version of the Hammer.
Yeah.
That was the only quote unquote lighter song.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
I listened last night. I've been waiting, hoping it was coming to iTunes, but I was listening to it on Spotify. Our friend Lindsay's podcast, For Tits and Giggles.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which is really good. Same kind of the same idea of what we do, where they instead they take a goofy, like, erotic or kind of like quote unquote like sexy young adult kind of novel, and read it and then just kind of like go over it. It's pretty fucking funny. Like the first episode is about like a world where all of men are almost extinct, so men are kind of kept in captivity to be like sperm farms. It just sounded like real ridiculous.
It's such a good concept for a podcast.
Oh yeah,
and they crushed it with the name.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like I love Lindsay to death. I don't know the other host, but they're extremely funny on it. So it's on Spotify, Stitcher, and then I think they're on Instagram as just Tits and Giggles. It might be For Tits and Giggles. But it's really good.
Tits and Giggles Pod.
Yeah, it's extremely funny. And right now I think they got 4 full episodes up. One of which is them reading tweets from a thread about like what's like a confounding thing a man has told you as a woman about like your body, and just all of this insane shit that like men, including like doctors, have told women about like just insane shit about like vaginas and how like, oh well, like everything in a vagina comes out of the same hole. Like why can't you just like force all of your period to be done in one day or like one time instead of saying it's just shit like that? It's fucking hilarious. So yeah, check that out. Check out the 7,000 albums that was released in.
Yes, just last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2018 alone. Yeah, I think that's all I got. I don't know. Follow us on stuff.
All the stuff.
Yes, all the things. All right. I hope you suffer, but why?
Why?